أنا أستطيع أن أنا أستطيع أن أتعلم العربية. Repeat after me, which means I can learn Arabic. Now you can pause this video and practice repeating the sentence out loud until you feel comfortable with the pronunciation. Now we have the verb أحتاج, which means I need. أنا أحتاج. Repeat after me. أنا أحتاج. I need. Once again, we need to put the preposition to, which means أن, after the verb أحتاج. And it goes like this. أنا أحتاج أن. Repeat after. أفهم. أفهم, which means understand. أفهم. أفهم. هذه. هذه means this. Repeat after me. هذه اللغة. هذه اللغة, which means this language. Putting everything together. أنا أحتاج أن أفهم هذه اللغة. Now you can notice for the verb أفهم, meme sounds like ma, and we have to make it sound like this because of the preposition أن before it. We can't say أفهم. Grammarly, this is wrong. So you have to say أن أفهم. ما أفهم. أنا أحتاج أن أفهم هذه اللغة. Now if you want to say I don't know, we add لا before the verb أعرف, and we say لا أعرف. أنا لا أعرف. أنا لا أعرف. And the Arabic word for I begin or I start is أبدأ. أبدأ. It means I start or I begin. Now listen carefully to this sentence. أنا لا أعرف من أين أبدأ. We have من, which means from, and أين, which means where. So this sentence means I don't know where to start or where to begin. Now listen carefully and repeat after me. أنا لا أعرف من أين أبدأ. أنا لا أعرف من أين أبدأ. قليلا. And to say I know a little, you say أعرف قليلا. أعرف العربية قليلا. Or you can say أنا أعرف العربية قليلا. Please keep in mind that there are so many other complex ways to say this, but for now we're going to stick with the simple sentences. We have the word جميلة. جميلة, which means beautiful. العربية لغة جميلة. The word جميلة is an adjective that describes feminine nouns. You can see that the word جميلة ends with tun or ta marbuta, which usually we add at the end of a word or an adjective to indicate the feminine meaning. And you have also العربية, which have ta marbuta at the end of it. So the adjective جميلة has to match the noun that it described, which is in this case the word العربية. The Arabic word for however is لكن. لكن هي لغة صعبة. The pronoun هي means she. It translated here into it. And since the word العربية is a feminine noun, we're replacing the word العربية with the pronoun هي. ولكن هي لغة صعبة. The word رأي means opinion. If we add يا at the end of the word رأي, we end up with the word رأيي. رأيي, which means my opinion. And to say in my opinion, we say في رأيي. في رأيي. العربية لغة جميلة، لكن في رأيي هي لغة صعبة. Not difficult. We use the word ليست. ليست صعبة. العربية ليست صعبة. Again, repeat after me. العربية ليست صعبة. العربية ليست صعبة. To say I'm learning, we have the pronoun أنا with the verb in the present tense. أتعلم. أنا أتعلم. And to say you are learning, we have the pronoun أنت. And أنت is a pronoun that used only for masculine. أنت تتعلم. أنت تتعلم. You can see that we added a ta at the beginning of the word أتعلم instead of the hamza or alif that we used with the pronoun أنا. أنا أتعلم, I am learning. أنت تتعلم, you are learning. And this format of تتعلم is only for the masculine. We have the word بسرعة. بسرعة, which means fast. أنت تتعلم بسرعة. Repeat after me. أنت تتعلم بسرعة. And to say you speak, we have أنت تتكلم. أنت تتكلم. Again, we're using that ta sound at the beginning of the verb when we're using the pronoun أنت. أنت تتكلم العربية جيدا. Repeat after me. أنت تتكلم العربية جيدا. And جيدا means very well. If you remember from previous lessons, we have always to hook the sound from mu to العربية. And we say like this. تتكلم العربية. أنت تتكلم العربية جيدا. Now to say I wish I can be, we have أتمنى, which means I wish, أن أكون. أتمنى أن أكون. I wish I can be. And the verb أتمنى is one of those verbs that need the preposition أن after it. أتمنى أن أكون. For more details and examples about this, you can go back to that lesson that appears on your screen. I will also link it in the description box below. The word مثلك means like you. And to say, I wish I can be like you, we have أتمنى أن أكون مثلك. أتمنى أن أكون مثلك. We are still using the pronoun أنت, and this time for the verb study. You study or you are studying. We add the ta at the beginning of the verb, and we have أنت تدرس. أنت تدرس. means you study or you are studying. بجد means very hard. أنت تدرس بجد means you study very hard. Now, using the pronoun أنا, we have أنا أريد, which means I want. أنا أريد أن أدرس. أريد is also one of the verbs that need the preposition أن afterwards. أنا أريد أن أدرس. I want to study. أريد أن أدرس بجد مثلك, which means I want to study as hard as you do. Now we ended up with this sentence. أنت تدرس بجد وأنا أريد أن أدرس بجد مثلك. To ask the question, how do you study? In Arabic we say, كيف تدرس. كيف means how. كيف تدرس. And the verb تدرس refer to the pronoun أنت. Only we don't have to use it in this case. We don't have to say كيف تدرس أنت. We say كيف تدرس. How do you study? To say I listen, we have أنا أستمع. أنا أستمع. And جيدا means very well. أنا أستمع جيدا. To say I repeat, we have the verb أكرر. أنا أكرر. أكرر, which means I repeat. أكرر الدرس عدة مرات. Repeat after me. أكرر الدرس عدة مرات. It means I repeat the lesson few times. عدة مرات means few times. And to say I memorize, we have the verb أحفظ. أنا أحفظ. ثم means then. ثم أحفظ الدرس. Repeat after me. ثم أحفظ الدرس. ثم أحفظ الدرس. It means then I memorize the lesson. We ended up with this beautiful sentence. أنا أستمع جيدا. أكرر الدرس عدة مرات. ثم أحفظ الدرس. How to use the present tense verbs with the pronoun أنتِ. Stay tuned till the end of this lesson for a quick check quiz. Listen to this paragraph. أنتِ تتكلمين بسرعة. أنا لا أفهم ماذا تقولين. أنا أدرس اللغة العربية. وأنتِ ماذا تدرسين؟ Now, let's break this paragraph into small sentences. The verb تكلم means talked. The infinitive in English for the verb talked is to talk. In Arabic, in the other hand, the infinitive takes the third person masculine, which is هو. So the verb is تكلم. So this form of the infinitive in Arabic is the easier way to start from, because we need prefixes and suffixes in order to come up with a proper conjugation for each pronoun. We will be focusing today only on the pronoun أنتِ. And to conjugate the verb talk with the pronoun أنتِ, we will start with the infinitive form of the verb تكلم, as we mentioned before. First, as we see here, we need to add a ta at the beginning of the verb. أنتِ تتكلمي. أنتِ تتكلمي. Then we need to add ya noon at the end of the verb. Finally, the verb will be أنتِ تتكلمين أنت تتكلمين which means you are speaking. The word بسرعة بسرعة in Arabic means fast. And to say you are speaking fast we have أنت تتكلمين بسرعة أنت تتكلمين بسرعة. Moving to another verb, we have the verb to say. In Arabic is قال, and both of these forms are the infinitive way for the verb in both English and Arabic. And again, to conjugate this verb with the pronoun أنت, we start with adding ta at the beginning of the verb. I also need to mention that we have to change the alif in the verb قال into waw. So we end up with the verb تقولي تقولي. Then we add ya noon at the end of the verb. And finally, we have the verb تقولين أنت تقولين, which means you are saying. And that's how you conjugate the verb قال with the pronoun أنت in the present tense. I don't understand. In Arabic, we say أنا لا أفهم. أنا لا أفهم. I don't understand. And ماذا is the question tool for what. To say I don't understand what you're saying, we have أنا لا أفهم ماذا تقولين. أنا لا أفهم ماذا تقولين. And here how you say I study the Arabic language. You say أنا أدرس اللغة العربية. The right way and the proper way to say this, we need to hook the ending sounds for the words with each other like this. أنا أدرس اللغة العربية. أنا أدرس اللغة العربية. The infinitive form for the verb to study in Arabic is درس. درس. Following the same steps, we're going to conjugate the verb درس with the pronoun أنت by adding ta at the beginning of the verb, تدرسي, and ya noon at the end of the verb, تدرسين. أنت تدرسين. And to ask the question, what do you study? We have وأنت ماذا تدرسين? And you, what do you study? We will listen again to the same paragraph. Test your understanding after we took the lesson. أنت تتكلمين بسرعة. أنا لا أفهم ماذا تقولين. أنا أدرس اللغة العربية. وأنت ماذا تدرسين? Now listen to this new paragraph and see how much you can understand from it. هل تعرفين الطريق إلى الجامعة؟ أنا جديد هنا وأحتاج المساعدة. We will break this paragraph into small sentences and build it up step by step. We will begin with the verb عرف, which means he knew. And again, this is the infinitive form for the verb knew. عرف. Let's conjugate the verb عرف with the pronoun أنت by adding ta at the beginning of the verb, then ya noon at the end of the verb, and we will have the verb تعرفين. أنت تعرفين. You know. And to ask the question, do you know? We put هل before the verb تعرفين. هل تعرفين? Do you know? الطريق إلى الجامعة means the way to the university. الطريق إلى الجامعة. Now let's ask the question again. هل تعرفين الطريق إلى الجامعة؟ One more time. هل تعرفين الطريق إلى الجامعة? Which means, do you know the way to the university? The word جديد means new. And to say, I am new here, we have أنا جديد هنا. And that's for masculine. For feminine, we say أنا جديدة هنا. And هنا means here. أنا جديد هنا or أنا جديدة هنا. And they both mean I am new here. And to say I need help, we have أنا أحتاج المساعدة. Again, أنا أحتاج المساعدة. Let's put the last sentences together to make a nice paragraph. هل تعرفين الطريق إلى الجامعة؟ أنا جديد هنا وأحتاج المساعدة. Or we can say هل تعرفين الطريق إلى الجامعة؟ أنا جديدة هنا وأحتاج المساعدة. And all this means, do you know the way to the university? I'm new here and I need help. Are you ready to take a quiz? If I say أنت تتكلم, what is the verb for أنت? أنت تتكلم. أنت تتكلمين. You got it right. How about أنت تقول? أنت تقولين. You got it right. One more verb we have. تعرف. أنت تعرف. أنت تعرفين. That's right. Conjugate verbs in the present tense with the pronouns هو and هي. We need to start first with the infinitive of the verb. So for example, we have the verb قرأ. هو قرأ. It means in English, he read. The infinitive of the verb he read in English is to read. In Arabic, in the other hand, the infinitive take the third masculine pronoun conjugated in the past tense. It is easier to deal with this verb because it has the original letters of the verb or the roots of the verbs. We will be then adding suffixes and prefixes to this verb according to the pronouns and the verb tense that we're using. Let's apply this and conjugate the verb قرأ with the pronoun هو in the present tense. Simply, we need to add يا at the beginning of the verb قرأ. It turns to be like this. هو يقرأ. هو يقرأ. And if you notice, the a sound in the verb قرأ turns to be u when we conjugate it in the present tense with the pronoun هو. So it has to end up with ضمة or with the u sound. هو يقرأ, which means he reads. Let's practice now another verb. And this time we're going to take the verb كتب. هو كتب. And in English means he wrote. And the infinitive of he wrote is to write. The Arabic infinitive, in this case, it's كتب. هو كتب. Again, if you remember, it's the third masculine pronoun in the past tense. Following the same rules, we need to add ya at the beginning of the verb كتب and change in some other sounds. So it turns to be like this. هو يكتب. هو يكتب. And you can see that we ended up the verb كتب with the bu sound this time. هو يكتب. Let's put now those two verbs that we practiced in a sentence. Listen carefully. هو يقرأ ويكتب العربية جيداً. And in this case, we have to hook the bu sound in the verb يكتب with the word after it. It turns to be like this. يكتب العربية. And the word جيدا means very well. Now let's move to the pronoun هي and see how to conjugate in the present tense. We will begin, as we learned before, with the infinitive of the verb, which is قرأ, with its original letters قاف, را, and ألف. So to conjugate with هي in the present tense, we are adding تا at the beginning of the verb this time. هي تقرأ. We still need to make the u sound at the end of the verb, similar with the conjugation with the pronoun هو. هي تقرأ. She reads. And doing the same thing with the verb كتب, which is already in the infinitive form. كتب. Conjugating with هي, always we need to add ta at the beginning of the verb. هي تكتب. We are keeping the bu sound at the end of the verb always. هي تكتب, which means she writes. Now let's use the verbs that we learned so far with the pronouns هو and هي in one sentence. Listen carefully. هو يقرأ ويكتب العربية جيدا. وهي تقرأ وتكتب العربية جيدا أيضا. Which means he reads and writes Arabic very well. And she reads and writes Arabic very well too. And the word أيضا means too or as well. If you're still here and still watching, please subscribe to my channel and press the like button if you find this lesson helpful. And stick around, there is still more to learn about. We will practice more, and this time we're going to use the verb عمل. عمل. It means he worked. The infinitive in English is to work. And as you know by now, the infinitive form in Arabic takes the third masculine pronoun conjugated in the past tense. So to say he works in Arabic, we have هو يعمل. We added ya at the beginning of the verb يعمل, and we kept the lu sound at the end of it. عمل هو يعمل. And to conjugate the same verb عمل with the pronoun هي, we are adding ta at the beginning of the verb. هي تعمل. هي تعمل. And always, as we mentioned before, we need to keep the lu sound at the end of the verb. Let's practice and put these two verbs in a sentence. Listen carefully. هو يعمل بدوام كامل وهي تعمل بدوام كامل أيضا. Which means he works full-time job and she works full-time job too. So the word بدوام كامل means full-time job. And again, the word أيضا means also or too. Now listen carefully to this new sentence. هو يدرس اللغة العربية. هي لا تدرس اللغة العربية. هي تدرس اللغة الإنجليزية. So the verb we have here, the first verb is درس. He studied. And the infinitive in English is to study. Conjugating the verb درس, we are adding ya at the beginning of the verb. هو يدرس. هو يدرس. With the su sound at the end of the verb, which means he studies. Conjugating درس always with the pronoun هي. This time we are adding ta at the beginning of the verb and keeping the su sound at the end of it. We have this هي تدرس. She studies. هي تدرس. هو يدرس. Now my friends, it's time for a quiz. Hope you're ready. Conjugate the verb قرأ with the pronoun هو and هي. Take your time to think about it, then say your answer out loud. Our answer is هو يقرأ هي تقرأ. You got it right. This time, conjugate the verb عمل with هو and هي. That's right. هو يعمل هي تعمل. Doing awesome. How about the verb درس with هو and هي? That was amazing. You got it right. So درس هو يدرس هي تدرس.